Hey guys, it's your boy 14 Fluffies here, and today I have a deck profile for you guys. This is the profile for my Elemental Hero deck that I commonly play on DevPro and Dueling Network, and definitely on streams. So, and I enjoy this deck a lot. So, let's get into it. Okay, first off we have 3 copies of Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. This is pretty much the key card of the deck now. You really do need to run 3 copies of it because it gets all your searches and it really gets your combos going. Next off, I still play 2 copies of Neos Alias because Neos Alias is a light target and it is needed for a specific tech card I run that a lot of people think is actually pretty ingenious when they really think about it, so I run Alias. And then also another note about him is that he's a 1900, so he pretty much beats over everything in Cleefort. Just a fun fact. And then the hero that I play that really sets this deck apart. It makes things happen, makes wonderful things happen. He is combolicious, and that is 2 Elemental Hero Blazemans. And the reason why I run him is because he allows you to dump Shadow Mist to the graveyard for an instant +1. And not to mention, when you combo him with anything, including like a Mash Change or a Call of the Haunted, you can get even more utility out of him. Obviously, if you have the Mash Change, you can go into Darklaw, and if you have Call of the Haunted, you can just flip up the Call of the Haunted in your opponent's end phase, get the Shadow Mist back, search Mash Change. And then you can immediately Mash Change the Shadow Mist into Darklaw on the next turn in order to get more cards, so on and so forth. Okay, next up, only 2 copies of Bubble Man. The only reason why I play only 2 Bubble Man is because I play a higher monster count than most hero players. Most hero players only run between 10 and 12 monsters. This deck has 15. So 3 Bubble Man definitely clogs. And for the final hero, we have 1 Elemental Hero Wildheart, just because he's good, and he's kind of random, actually. I've actually won ranked matches on DevPro because of his effect, to make him unaffected by traps. Because one time, it was game 2 against a Ritual Beast player, and he kept drawing into his sides, and he had lots of back row set, and I just summoned Wildheart and kept poking, and he couldn't do anything to it. And eventually I had one game where it was just like, you know what, fuck Wildheart, I'm just gonna warning the Wildheart, and it was hilarious. So yeah, I definitely got that good. I definitely got a problem card out of the way just by throwing a Wildheart out. So basically he's just there to bait out back row. And that wraps up the heroes at about 10. And then on for the non-heroes. Of course we got 2 copies of Summoner Monk. He is needed because he gets Shadow Mist from the deck. And he combos pretty well. You can also get Blazeman, but Shadow Mist is just the best one you want to get. The good thing about Blazeman, though, is that he gets you extra discard fodder for Monk when you add Polymerization. So, just another thing. So, if your Monk does live for a turn, you can probably push for game then, if the Monk lives. And then, following the Monk, we got 1 copy for Heroic Challenger Assault Halberd. I only play 1 copy, and really, 1 copy is all I need. Because he combos very well. Special Halberd, normal summon Shadow Mist, or normal summon any hero going to a rank 4. He's really a good card. And for the personal tech choices that I have, they're not level 4, so they are a bit problematic, but they win me so many games. It's not even funny. Okay, first off, Neospatian Grandmole. I actually main deck this card, yes. And it's just like, every time I summon it, just like a feeling like my opponent thinks this lanky motherfucker actually main decks Neospatian Grandmole. What? It's hilarious though. It's such a good card. And obviously, since I main deck it, I don't have the side as much against Shaddolls, which is a matchup I have a hard time playing against, just because you kind of can't go into your extra deck because Shaddol Fusion will just wreck your day, and realistically, even if you work around the Shaddol Fusion, they always have those retarded-ass clowns, or the Star Seraphs, or whatever that bullshit is. So, Neospatian Grandmole just says, fuck it, get rid of all that. And on to the last card that I play that really no one sees coming, but it makes perfect sense. We got the Dank Luster Soldier, Envoy at the beginning. This card wins me so many games. So many, especially mirror matches. It's like they never see BLS coming, which I think is hilarious. Because I main deck double Alias and 3 Shadow Mist just to play BLS. And that will wrap up the monster lineup at 15. Now on to the spells. For the 3 ofs, we play, which is pretty self-explanatory, 3 copies of Reinforcement of the Army. Of course, you use this to search out your level 4 lower warriors. I used to play a copy of E-Call, but I've taken it out for Call of the Haunted. So, but I'm not really missing the E-Call at all. 3 Rota is just perfect for me. Then on to the next 3 of, I still am rocking the 3 Mystical Space Typhoon in the main deck, simply because Tower's Turbo is a thing, and main decking triple MST really helps with that matchup. And on to 2 ofs. I only played 2 mass changes. Obviously, if I had and the only reason why I don't play 3s is because I only have 2 copies, but if I had a 3rd one, I would make room for it. Without a doubt, I would make room for a 3rd one. That's not even a question. But alas, I only have 2, so I only play 2. And now for the other change quick plays, we got 1 mass change second. Yeah, this is pretty much just an additional search target. It allows me to empty my hand, so like if I open with Blaze Man, I can dump Shadow Mist to search Alias, mass change second, ditch the Alias, make Darklaw, and then I have the graveyard set up for BLS turn 1, which is really nice. I mean, obviously BLS isn't nearly as consistent as it used to be when I had Lavalval Chain, which I loved using, by the way. But without Lavalval Chain, BLS isn't really quite as good as it used to be. But that's just how it is. Okay, for the last change, quick play, we got 1 form change. Obviously, because we main deck the Poly to search off of Blazeman, this card actually has a purpose. It's not just something that you use to OTK. Obviously, my main play for it is to fusion summon the Ab-Zero, form change it into Acid, nuke the opponent's field completely, and then just swing for game. And it actually is pretty consistent. And obviously we have the 1 mass charge, and that wraps up the masked lineup. Now for the seeing to the other 1-ofs, for the fusion spells. We got 1 Poly because we play Blazeman, and searching the Poly is a free +1. And really, it sucks drawing Poly. I never want to draw Poly. Same thing with Form Change and Wild Heart, because Wild Heart's always a dead draw for the most part. Except if your opponent has like 5 back row, then Wild Heart's a good draw. But yeah. But Poly, I never want to draw Poly unless I have a Monk in hand to just ditch it, because most of the time I'm not going to be able to use Poly when I draw it. And for the other fusion spell, we got 1 Miracle Fusion. I only have 1 Miracle Fusion. If I had a second one, I would definitely try to make room for it. But because I only play 2 E-Hero Fusions at the moment, 1 Miracle Fusion just does me well enough. And for the other 1-of spells, for the staples, we have 1 Book of Moon, because it's Book of Moon, and we got the 1 Raigeki. And yes, this is actually an LOB Super Raigeki. Get on my level, bro. And that wraps up the spells at 15 as well. And now we move on to the traps. For the traps, we start off with triple Call of the Haunted. I have not been using this card for the longest time, and I regret it greatly. Because, you can totally get Shadow Mist back from the graveyard search, and it's just like, it's something I've missed out on, and I feel like an idiot because of it. It's so good. But now that I am running it, this deck is so much better, and I am never going to look back. And then we got 2 copies of Mirror Force, because, Mirror Force plus Darklaw equals win. Only 1 copy of Fiendish Chain, only because I only own 1 copy of Fiendish Chain. And if I want to get a second Fiendish Chain and just get rid of that fucking Wild Heart, because I would definitely take a Fiendish Chain over a Wild Heart any day of the week. And then on for the staple 1-ofs. We got Bottomless, Compulse, Ring, and Torrential. And that wraps up the trap lineup at 10. And that is the main deck. On to the extra deck. Starting with the fusions, we start off with a card that, people actually don't play, but it came in the Hero Strike structure deck, but I looked at it and it's just like, god damn, how could you not play it? Got 1 Contrast Hero Chaos. Obviously, he is the best thing to go for with Miracle Fusion. Like, every time Raigeki happens to me when I have a field of multiple masked heroes, I pray to draw Miracle Fusion to make this and wreck their day. And when it does happen, I am super happy. And for the masked heroes, we got one Master Hero Deanne, because I do main deck the Wild Heart just to use him. I mean, I don't really use the Master Change second on Halberd or Grand Mole, because really, I don't, especially Grand Mole, like, I want to keep Grand Mole. Halberd, not as much, but typically I go into an Exceed play with Halberd, as opposed to Master Change, going into Master Change second to make this, so yeah. I mean, I almost want to drop him for, like, a Nova Master. Yeah, especially if I do ditch Wild Heart, I would definitely replace this with a Nova Master. We got one Master Hero Anki, because he enables OTKs and gets extra pluses. We got one copy of The Shining, because The Shining is good. And because you can get him up to a pretty beefy number, especially if you can poly for a Shadow Mist and Alias in hand, and then drop BLS, you still get a BLS and a 3200 Shining, which is pretty legit. We got one copy of Acid, because nuking back row is always fun. One copy of Ab-Zero. The only reason why I'm only running one of each is because I only have 2 Bubble Man. If I had a 3rd Bubble Man, I would probably think about getting a 2nd Acid or a 2nd Ab-Zero. Okay, on to the next ones. We have one Koga, because this card is absolutely amazing in the mirror match. This card kills Darklaw every time I summon it. It doesn't matter what they have, Koga gets over Darklaw regardless. And then speaking of Darklaw, we got the obligatory 2 Darklaw, because you kind of need to run Darklaw if you actually want to stand a chance against the meta. Darklaw is easily the best card in this extra deck, and it's the one that you go into the most. And there's a very good reason for this, because everyone knows his effect by now. And it's pretty legit. It's pretty much good against every deck in the meta right now, except Ritual Beast and Cosmos. And Cosmos, Cosmos is such a bad matchup, oh my god. Like, I almost don't even want to try to fight back against Cosmos, because I just get wrecked every time. And that wraps up the fusions at 9. And then for the Exceeds, we only have 6 Exceeds. Starting off, we have a Dark Rebellion Exceeds Dragon, because he's a good. He gets over things that a lot of other cards can't. Obviously, his effect targets, so he's not good against cards like Leo and Forerunner, but, you know, we have other ways of dealing with that. We have one Heroic Champion Excalibur for towers, if the Klee player somehow manages to summon towers, because if you're playing against Klees, like, you want to go for this guy turn 1 as much as possible, because you really shit on their day with this. And going on, we have one Castel, because Castel spins Sacrifice. Got one Dweller, because, you know, when you can't make Darklaw, you just make Dweller and just laugh at Burning Abyss. And Yang Zings. Yang Zings are a pain. Really, Darklaw kind of neuters Yang Zings, but if they have Creation, that could be problematic. So, you know, we have the Dweller, just in case. Okay, and we have one number 86 Heroic Champion at Rungomanyad. I very rarely make him now, but when I got him, I tried experimenting with him. He's, on paper, he's absolutely incredible. In practice, highly impractical. Just saying, because you use way too many resources trying to summon this guy. I mean, I'd probably trade him out for something if I got something better. Something like maybe a Deltaros or an Ouroboros. Or a Daigusto Emerald, whatever. And then for the last Exceed, and wrapping up the extra deck, we got one number 80 Rhapsodian Berserk. He's good for attacking the graveyard, obviously. If I'm up against Tellarknights, Necros, Dolls, well, probably not Shaddolls, because you don't want to leave this thing on the field against Shaddolls. You'll just get wrecked. Mainly just Tellers and Necros, because you can take 2 cards out of their graveyard. He's really good, especially if you can attach him to something like a Dweller. Especially if you're playing Burning Abyss. Like, if you can attach a Rhapsodian Berserk to a Dweller and then just banish 2 cards from their graveyard while still having a Dweller with attachments, you can really ruin their day with Rhapsodian Berserk and Dweller. And that wraps up the extra deck, and I think I'm going to do the side deck for you guys, and there are some interesting choices in here. It's definitely tailored towards poorer matchups, and one thing I noticed that is unintentional is that there is a ton of Teller hate in here. Just like all the fucking Tellarknight hate. I really hate Tellarknights, oh my god. Just like Trevor and all the back row, just fuck all that shit. Yeah. But onto it, we got one random-ass copy of Gorz, the Emissary of Darkness. I really love Gorz because he's just randomly good. I mean, there was one time I was matched up against a Battery Man player on DevPro, and I sided this card in games 2 and 3, and I opened with it games 2 and 3, and I won games 2 and 3 because of Gorz. So yeah, any decks that like to OTK kind of get shit on by Gorz. Then we got 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. This is something that I'm experimenting with. I mean, I've yet to test it, but to me it sounds good on paper just because you can, it's great against Ritual Beasts, one, because that matchup is kind of iffy. Obviously, you're not going to want to make Dark Claw against Ritual Beasts. What you want to do is actually sit on an Alias with Lancia and other side deck cards that you will see very soon. And then lastly, for the monsters on the side deck, we got 1 Veiler. I wanted to bump this Veiler count up desperately, but I have not been able to get my hands on other copies. Maybe I'd probably trade in one of the Lancias for another Veiler, but I'm not trading in this Gorse for my life. I love this random Gorse for no reason. And then on to the spells. This is a pretty interesting tech because people forget this card, like actually the spells in general, people forget these 2 spells exist. And they're really good. First off is 2 copies of Back to Square One. People forget about this card. It's pretty much just a spell equivalent of Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, and it's just like, what's not to love about this? You discard a card, top deck a monster. And here's the thing, if you're comboing up Blaze Man and stuff, you will always have discard fodder for this. So that's why this card is pretty alright. I mean, I'm still testing it, though. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are better cards, but with Evac at 1, and Granmole at 1, like, this is kind of like the next best card to use, without, obviously, next to Wing Blast. And for the next 2 spells, like, this is the most ingenious thing ever, really. Why have people forgotten about this card? And that is double Kaiser Coliseum. This card is so good, oh my god. Like, this card wins me Yang Zing and Ritual Beast matches just by itself. Like, if you're playing against Yang Zing and you can send on a Dark Claw plus this, you win. And if you're playing against Ritual Beast and you can send on an Alias plus this, you win. So yeah. Especially if you have a Lancia for the Ritual Beast matchup. Like, if you can send on an Alias with Kaiser Coliseum plus Lancia, it's pretty much GG. They can't do anything. Especially if you've already found a way to make them waste that 1 monster that they can have. And then for the traps, I've actually cut this trap lineup down, excuse me, recently. There used to be 7, and there used to be a Chaos Trap Hole in here, but I cut it for the 3rd Lancia. So yeah, we're gonna start off with the obligatory triple Mind Crush, because you kind of need to play triple Mind Crush, because whenever you run into Necros, you kind of want to fuck their life up, you know what I mean? It's also alright for Hero Mirror Match, but realistically, I never find myself opening with Mind Crush, even when I sight in all 3. Kinda shitty, I know. It's alright against Tellers, especially if you can establish a turn 1 Dark Claw. I mean, it's especially good against Tellers then, but, you know, it's aight against Ritual Beast. I mean, I typically don't I don't always sight in the Mind Crush against Ritual Beast, because typically I fall asleep during their turns. I'm being completely honest. Like, their turns take so long. It's just like, I'm gonna take a nap and just wake me up when you're done, okay? And speaking of Ritual Beasts and Teller Knights, for dealing with their retarded amounts of back row, we have triple 7 Tools of the Bandit. This is my personal favorite tech, because this card does something that Wiretap and Trap Stun cannot do. Unlike Trap Stun, this stops Nova Alpha, and unlike Wiretap, this just gets rid of Steeds. Wiretap obviously shuffles the Steeds back into the deck, and it's just like with Barrier and Infernities, the Ritual Beast player can just search their Steeds next turn. And obviously, for Teller Knights, it's better than Trap Stun, because it just negates, because you can chain this to Nova Alpha and negate Nova Alpha. And realistically, I don't really care about most of the back row in Teller Knights. Like, the only stuff I want to actually hit with 7 Tools is the Nova Alpha and maybe like random battle traps they play. The Call of the Haunteds and the Fiendish Chains can just be hit by MST. And that wraps up the side deck. So the changes I have in mind, or like I've said before, would be swapping out the Wild Heart for... actually, let's get him out. Would be obviously swapping out the Wild Heart for a second Fiendish Chain. And if I were to dump the Wild Heart, I would most likely also get rid of this Mash Chain second, simply because I have no real reason to play it. I mean, ditching this Mash Chain second for a 3rd Mash Change would be alright. That's what I would probably do. And obviously, if I'm ditching the Wild Heart, I'm probably going to ditch the Deanne as well. The card I would probably replace it with, it would be an Elemental Hero Nova Master, because that card is the shit. It's legit. I love Nova Master, and I really want to get my hands on one, but I don't really have the money in the bank right now to buy one on TCG Player. And that will do it for the deck profile. Okay, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.